Welcome back, guys. Um, Today I'll be talking about Adobe Illustrator. Okay, what is Adobe Illustrator? Adobe Illustrator is a graphic-based, vector-based design software. Okay, the other when I was explaining about Photoshop, I said Photoshop is a pixel-based graphic software. Illustrator is a vector-based graphic software. It's kind of like Corel Draw. Okay, here you can edit and maneuver through vector. Just like you can edit lines, shapes, and drawings easily with Illustrator than Photoshop that deals based more on image. Okay, Photoshop deals with images mostly. Illustrator deals with lines, shape, vector, art, 3D, just anything vector related. Okay, so once you open a document, the same thing you see in Photoshop and artboard, where your designs will be. On your left hand side you see the tools, kind of like in Photoshop, but then in Illustrator again there are thousands of tools here, and I've not used all myself. I just use the ones I need, but then again you can download the software and go and play with it to see what everything does. So you have the selection tools, the pen tool. This is a major tool in Illustrator. It helps you draw. The pen tool, you see, you can draw lines, shapes. That's what a pen tool does. Okay, you can also use it to like trace over things. You can also curve. It took a while for me to master this pen tool, especially this curving aspect of it. It wasn't easy, but with practice I was able to get it. So that's what the pen tool does. There are different types of pen tools. One that has curve. See how this one curves quite differently from the other one. So different type of tools. And then inside a tool you see by your right hand side, but if you left click and hold it, you see other tools inside. You can see other tools inside. This anchor point tool now is to get any part of your line and just like maybe edit it to a curve, or see, just like this. This is where we create our logos mostly. I can't create logo on Photoshop. I create my logos on Illustrator because you can edit more on it. You can edit vector more on it than in Photoshop, so it's easier to create logos here. So let me just delete this. You have your shapes. Of course, if you hear me talk about logo, I talked about geometric logo. Another thing that helps me design logo is the shapes too. You have any shape you want, left click it and hold. You see other shapes, star, polygon, and a line too. So that is it for shape. So of course it is showing an outline because it is showing an outline here. I can change it to a fill. So basically here is they call this a fill, they call this an outline. Outline is the same as stroke. Remember stroke from Photoshop? The same as outline. Okay, so you can change the color of the fill. That is the main color. Then the stroke, you can change the color to anything you see. You can also find fill and stroke here. This is fill, this is stroke. You can change the colors too here. If you don't want any outline or any stroke, just select this, select the item. Then if you want to remove the stroke, for example, just select this. You see, that's removed. So moving down, we have your brush tool, pen tool, smooth tool. All these to help to edit lines and parts. I'll show you a practical example of a logo, of how to use these tools to work on a logo. You have your text tool. Have your text tool. That you can use to write anything you want. Here's something that Photoshop cannot do. It does not deal well with vectors. So if you create an outline, just left click, create an outline, for example. Okay. Then ungroup it, see what happens. When you use this direct selection tools, see what happens. Let me zoom in. You see all these points, they are called anchor points. All these points means that you can edit from it, or you can drag or edit from all these points. See, this has turned to anchor points. You've turned the fonts, right, that we wrote with the type 2. We've turned the font to anchor points. Now you can drag any point. Photoshop can't do this. It doesn't work well with vector. Okay, we use this a lot to edit typeface, typography, just make the design and the art look better and look more cool. Okay, this is a perfect example of why I love Illustrator. Of course, you can do this with CorelDRAW also, but I think if you want, if you're an Adobe person, you like Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop, you just might want to stick with Adobe Photoshop. Plus, it's an industry standard design tool as well, so it's used by most professionals, most professional graphic designers around the world. So that is how you do that. Okay, let's move on. Inside the type tool, you can see other options inside, like this type on a part tool. It took a while for me to understand this well. Let me show you how it works. So you might want to curve a text or write a text around this circle, for example. So let's make it a stroke, right? So if you select, just right left click and hold all the options. If you select this type on a part tool, now you can type on this part, this circular part. Okay, see, your text will now be in circular form. Now you can write, anything you want. You can write anything you want. You can select it, come over to your right hand side. We'll get to all this place, but I'm just showing you an example. You can increase the size, let's say 40. But you see how the text formed this circular part, but because of that was the shape we used. Then we now use this type on a part tool. It's very awesome, very cool. So there are other type of tools here: eraser tools, scissors tool for to cut or to erase something when you want to cut something or split it. Gradient tool. Okay, this gradient tool, one of my favorite. You know what gradient is? To maybe mix up 2 or 3 colors together in one space. That's when you use the gradient tool. Let me see if I can show you an example on that. So if we use the gradient tool here, for example, you see how it mixed the black and white together, right? Excuse me. Okay. Okay, back to the gradient tool here. Let me just show you a quick example of how to mix 2 or 3 colors. Let me just show you an example of what a gradient is. You can mix blue, just any color, as long as it works well in your gradients. And of course, it's not just any color. You have to know, you've learned colors psychology, right? You've learned about colors, you know the colors that go well together.